Hello lads and ladies, and welcome back for another video on the channel. Now we are back. It's another international break. Now what that means is we can have a little bit of a break away from live content, a bit of a break away from discussing live topics as well, and we're going to go through the last kind of 7 or 8 weeks and rank every League One team start. Now this doesn't have to be where you are in the league. So for example, Northampton could be just above the relegation zone. You don't put them, they've had a poor start because they're above that. You expect Northampton to stay in the division, so that would be relatively an okay start. So we are kind of going by the expectations at the start of the season, where we maybe expected them to be. And we can't judge from what games are coming up, only from what we've seen in terms of performances, the expected goals, the kind of the performances in winning matches and losing games, the metrics defensively and going forwards. To join me, we are joined by my other host from League One Live on a Sunday. It's Jake Tong from Here for the Lincoln podcast.
Hello, Ben. Yes, I'm probably more well known for this, aren't I, than the Here for the Lincoln podcast. But
as that League
yes,
One bad page said, Napper's made you.
Yeah, well, yeah, apparently so. Yeah, but yeah, no, thanks, mate, for inviting me on. It's almost like if I didn't know how to do a tier list, I wouldn't have been invited. So yeah, no, I'm good, mate. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, and buzzing to have you on. Please like the show already. Jake, as my co-host, I want you to set the like goal today. You know kind of what we get normally. It's, a half an hour long video today, so I want you to set the like goal as well. And tell them to subscribe as well.
Yeah, well, if you could subscribe, I believe Ben is going for 16,500 subs by the end of the year.
Listens.
Is that right?
16,
That's
yeah,
correct.
16,500 subscribers by the end of this year, yeah.
By the end of 2024. So get subscribed down below. Join as a member, because I believe you've got access to over 20 members' videos as well, which
22 now.
I pretty much feature in all of them, if not by me being there by mention. And then I reckon 350 likes, Ben. That fair?
350. Wow, that's massive. I don't think we'll do that, but we hit that. Tell you what, we do that. I'll give out 3 memberships for free for a month. So you get subscribed down
Can I have
below.
a free membership?
Let's move on. I need the money. So we're going to get on with the tier list. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let's get into it. As you can see, Jakey boy over here has set us a well-coded list, to be fair to him. Do you want to go through the categories, Jake?
Yeah, so we've got, starting here at the bottom, we've got F. This is basically for clubs that are having an absolute stinker of a 24-25 thus far. C, your average. I think Napper's have achieved quite a few C's whilst he was at high school. B's, having a decent season. A, obviously a very good season. And an A star, we will reserve that for just the one team in this episode, having what we believe to be the best start of their EFL season. Right, Ben, do you want to go alphabetical order, or do you want to go bottom of the league and work up?
We'll go alphabetically, and talking about that, if we had to go through co-hosts on That Football League podcast, Woody would be somewhere in the middle. When he turns up, he's brilliant, but it's very, very rare, kind of he turns up early. Tom is reliable. He's a star, that boy. He's absolute fine class. And you will be somewhere around C. Somehow get us on the show because of you made a good joke 3 weeks ago, and that somehow kept you on the show for another month. So that's how I'd rank my fellow co-hosts. I love them so much, and I give them as much support as I can in the world as well. We'll go Barnsley. Now, I'll start off on Barnsley. Now, Barnsley have had a difficult kind of period, but after 6-7 games, we were third in the division, I felt. So they did play one more at that time. They have got some impressive victories. The one against Lincoln, I think, stands out the most. The one away at Crawley, where they didn't dominate the ball, but had a lot of it. But then some poor performances. The Mansfield at home on the opening day of the season. Even Lincoln away, they were poor. Darryl Clark said it was a 3 out of 10 performance. We're not going on cup games, but getting beat 7-0 at Man United doesn't bode well for me. The home performance against Stockport being 1-0 up, conceding a late goal there as well. Huddersfield away at the weekend, they were poor in the game. I'd probably go somewhere in the era, Jake. We expected Barnsley to challenge for the playoffs. They've not been disastrous. Probably just about in B. What about you?
Yeah, I'm thinking B as well. They're in the top 10, but again, they're not actually. They're 11th. Good research, Tommy. Yeah, they're hanging in there, aren't they? They're only a point off the playoffs as we speak, but they've been either very good or very bad. I think back to the Bristol Rovers game where I thought they were excellent, and then you compare that to the Stevenage away game where they got battered 3-0. So look, I know I'm going to get stick for wherever I put Barnsley because your subscribers who are Barnsley fans just me and them just do not agree. I've not been massively impressed, but still to not be impressed and for them to only be 1 point off the playoffs is a pretty decent season. So for me, I'm going to agree with you, Ben. I think they should go in B. Let's stick them there.
Yeah, I think that we've got to start there. Blues. Now, we all expected Birmingham to win the league. We all expected Birmingham to dominate. We all expected Birmingham to have the most possession, the most shots on target. They've done that. They've lost one game away at Charlton. When you look at their start, Wickham away, Leyton Orient away, Wigan, Wrexham both at home. Charlton away is a tough game as well. They've had a tough start. Reading at home, I thought was a pretty tough game to start off with. They won 7 in a row. They got better in terms of performances. They were winning by a goal and they started winning by a couple. I think even in the performances they won by just a goal, they dominated the game. They just struggled to find a way through. For me, it's a star because I think that being top of the league, winning 7 out of your first 9, drawing 1. Yes, they've lost 1 game of football, but they've looked comfortable. My only real slight concern is the goals they were conceding with Bailey Peacock fouling net. But other than that, it has to be a star for me, Jake.
Well, Ben, A star is reserved for one team only. So, are you wanting to put Blues as the only A star team in the division? Because
I,
for me, I think we need to save that for later. I think Birmingham, the money they spent, I would have expected the start that they've had,
okay.
and I think I would put them in
If
A.
you only want to go with one team, we'll go with one team.
I,
And I will
well,
put Blues as A because you expected it. I get that. But
you
I feel
massively.
like we've got exactly what we expected. I think anything less than, I think top end of A.
Yeah, I'm happy to put them in A. Like you say, Ben, they've had a really good start to the season. 7 wins out of 9 is not to be sniffed at. But when they've invested in the way that they have, and I know the whole circle, it comes back to Blues spending way more money than the rest of the division. For the squad they assembled, the likes of Leonard, May, Stansfield, Williamson, Cochrane, Clara, you'd expect them to be where they are. And given everything around the club, the really exciting head coach, the fans getting back on board. For me, Blues are doing exactly what I expect them to do. They're not overdoing expectations because for me, Birmingham simply cannot do expectations when they are so far ahead of everybody else. And I think there are teams with genuine better shouts for that A star position. So, which we'll come on to later. But yeah, I'm very happy sticking Blues in that A category.
Blackpool, difficult one because they didn't start too well, won 4 in a row, drew at home to Lincoln in the last minute, which is disappointing. But Blackpool are currently, 10th in the division. This
Yeah.
squad has had injuries, the likes of kind of Pennington was injured for a while, Norburn out for a while as well. And Baggett has been injured for a sustained period as well. So they've had injuries. It's a good squad that should be in the top 8, the top 10. It's there. So I'd probably go B. They haven't overestimated. I think even the teams that beat under Bruce, Huddersfield away is a good win, but extra at home, he should be winning that game in my
Yeah.
eyes as well. Charlton away was a great win as well. And then obviously they returned home and won the second home game as well, which was impressive. A good point against Wickham. B for me. Performance has been okay. Defensively strong since Bruce come in the building as well. Bar Saturday against Mansfield.
Yeah, I think if we were rating it from when Bruce got appointed, we'd probably have a strong case of putting Blackpool in the A category. But those sort of last couple of results really have tarnished it, haven't they? That draw away at home to Lincoln, and the 2-0 defeat to Mansfield. I think also before even Bruce came in, they had some pretty iffy results, didn't they? They were 4-1 up away at Cambridge and drew 4-4. So, yeah, look, I agree with you. Blackpool should certainly be aiming for a top 6 spot. They've not they're not far off either, are they? Like you say, that they're actually, again, same as Barnsley, 1 point behind Stockport, having played a game more. So I think like I said, if we're rating this from when Steve Bruce come in, you'd probably say an A. But
Yeah,
certainly the last couple of weeks, and there is a bit of recency bias. I think perhaps we're looking at B, um,
yeah.
purely because the Blackpool, the team they've got, they should probably be a little bit higher in the table, in my opinion.
Bolton Wanderers are a weird one because, like Blackpool, started quite slowly and then got those 3 wins on the bounce and a point against
Yeah.
Shrewsbury. So in the first kind of 5 games, he had that kind of those 4 points, didn't they? The win on the opening day, the 0-0 against Wrexham, and lost 3 on the bounce. But since then, they've taken 10 from the last 12 available. They've won 4 out of 9. They've only lost 3. If they do that over the course of the season, they are going to be in a decent place. Obviously, they've got to cut the losses out. I think for me, the goals conceded, they've conceded 15 goals. They've scored 15. I'd probably go C so far for Bolton. I don't think it's been disastrous because of the win they picked up recently. If we did this at the last international break, they're an F. Absolutely an F. And Ian Evatt was a dead man walking at times. The teams he played, though, since then, I think that have been perfect for them. Northampton, Crawley, Shrewsbury at home as well. The Reading game at home, Reading are poor away from home. That's there to be shown as well. I feel those fixtures maybe kind of covering a few cracks.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you, Ben, in terms of Bolton for their expectation and where we all expected them. I had Bolton, I think, third in my predictions. I'm just double checking that now. Yeah, I had Bolton to come third. And what are they now? 13th in the division. So that's 10 places off. Yes, they're only 2 points outside the top 6. I can understand that. I think, Ben, and I agree with you that they're in the C category, but I think they are only in there by the skin of their teeth. They have been poor for Bolton Wanderers. And we know how expectant their fans are. And absolutely, given the size of the football club and where they've been over the last sort of 20, 25 years, I can understand the expectation. I don't think performances have really particularly warranted going any higher than a C. I think they've had some good performers. I think Aaron Collins has struggled to hit the
Yeah,
ground running compared to what he did when he first came in the team. I think Carl Dempsey is probably one of the only real bright spots, as
yeah.
well as the new left wing back, Sean, as well. So yeah, I think we can stick them in C. But I think if they'd have beaten Shrewsbury on the weekend, you'd have been looking at a B. But for me, yeah, you're in that C category. It's been pretty poor from a Bolton point of view.
If Bolton Wanderers would have won that game, we could be sat here thinking they were 8th and just outside the playoffs. That's how close League One is. The table means absolutely nothing yet. I'll let you start off with the next game. And who is it? What team is it?
The next game, the next
Yeah, the
club,
next team. Yeah, the next club.
uh, Bristol Rovers. Bristol Rovers
What,
are
what,
are
there
the
we
next
are.
club. Um, Look, Ben, I don't know about you, but I was really excited about Bristol Rovers this season. They made some really good signings. Obviously, Isaac Hutchinson was probably the star of it. He had 25 goal contributions in League Two for Walsall last season, a mid-table League Two team. Promised on a cherry, come in for a lot of money. Um, Bristol Rovers invested heavily this summer, Ben, and I think there was an expectation of their fans for them to be closer to the playoffs than where they were last season. They're currently sat in 18th, and last year they finished in 15th. So technically, they're further away. I think, Ben, this has been a poor start for Bristol Rovers. I'm thinking they need to be in the C category. Yes, they've got 13 points. They've lost 5 games already, Ben. Um,
Yeah.
and they've only played 10. They've lost half the games. So if you're losing half your games and you want to get in the playoffs, it's just not going to add up, is it? So for me, I'm thinking Bristol Rovers fit into this C category.
I agree with you. One thing I will say, Bristol Rovers currently 18th in the division, 5 points above Leighton Orient in the position below. If you went to go 5 points above them, yes, they played or gained more, the 5 points off Lincoln. So that
Yeah.
is a little bit of context where they are. They're in a bit of an isolated situation. But if they had a better goal difference, even with that extra point, they go to 15th where Wigan are. They started well. It was just September where they lost 4 out of 4. If you took those away, they've won 4, drawn 1, lost 1. So it's not been too bad for them. They've picked up lately. I definitely agree on Seafun. Burton Albion, I think it's got to go down as an F. They are in the bottom 4. They've drawn 4, lost 5, and all of the football's been a lot better. And the metrics have been better. The possession base has gone from the lowest in the division to into the top 10. The shots on target again from one of the lowest to again they've moved up a few positions. So the metrics have improved. They started the season okay. They lost it on the opening day, but then they drew the next 4. Since then, have unfortunately gone on a bit of a poor run. And, the defeat away at Reading and Blackpool isn't something to be ashamed about. The good side, Bristol Rovers, it maybe hurts a little bit more. It's got to go down as an F because they conceded 19 goals already. That's nearly 2.5 a game. They scored 10. They started off like a house on fire. 4 points. It's not great. They've only won 5 games in 2024. And unfortunately, the new players haven't quite gelled yet.
Yeah, you're not helping your Burton Albion agenda, Ben, are you?
For me, Jake, and Burton Albion are a great club, and I look at and I was thinking this before, I look at the clubs that I feel like I built a decent connection up with. They're all sides that have done well, because if you do well, I will speak well about your club. If you don't do well, I will be there to critique. And I critiqued Fleetwood a lot last year. Burton Albion haven't been good enough in 2024. It's a fact. The results haven't been good enough. And if you want me to say nice things about you, start winning games of football. I think the performances have been better. The spirit has been there. They've got a good, small, good young core of supporters coming through as well, which is great to see. But unfortunately, on the pitch, it's just not quite worked out. I do believe Burton Albion will stay in League One and quite comfortably.
Yeah. Look, I think that again, sort of similar to Bristol Rovers, there was a lot of expectation about Burton because of everything that was new this summer. The new ownership, the new manager, the 23 new players that they signed, international players from literally all the corners of the globe, and I think there was a lot of excitement, certainly within the Brewers fan base. And to be honest, Ben, where do we expect Burton to finish? Probably towards, maybe if they're lucky, towards the top end of the bottom half, sort of 14th, 15th, that sort of area. And for them to be sat where they are on the table, as of today, 23rd, no wins on the board yet. I know Burton are perennial slow starters, and they've had positions in games where they could have picked up more points. They've got to go in F because we expected a little bit more from them.
Cambridge United, it's just been a disaster, hasn't it? 8 defeats in 9 going into this weekend, and it's poor, isn't it? Because they're conceding goals, then losing narrowly. One thing I'll say is they're playing all right football at times. And I remember me and you had a row about Fleetwood last year, and you went, Fleetwood are in games, and I disagreed wholeheartedly. And looking back, you can kind of see, yes, some games Fleetwood were in, but I think after the 2 or 3 games after that game you mentioned, we weren't in. And it looks like, yes, it was spirited performances early in the season. That's kind of gone now. Now they're losing poorly, possession based, under kind of the manager that they've got there, and Gary Monk. They will be okay defensively. They just not have the quality. I expected Cambridge anywhere between 24th and 17th. Well, they're currently down there. What we expected, and 1 point after 9. It's got to be F, hasn't it? He's an absolute clanger.
Yeah, 1 point from 9 games. What does that average amount to? Napa's 5 points over the season if they continue the run that they're on. Not good enough. And we're sat here on international break. We don't know if Gary Monk's going to see the other end of the international break as the Cambridge manager. But I think you could argue, yeah, they were in games at the start of the season. I think back to the Crawley game where they only lost by 1. The Blackpool game where they did so well to come back from 4-1 down, like we spoke about earlier. But then you look at other games. I'm obviously basing this heavily on the fact that we beat them 2-0 and didn't get out of second gear. They've slowly but surely been slipping into this mindset that, well, when are we actually going to win? And it feels a little bit like Cheltenham last season, Ben. with Cheltenham and Darrell Clark, when they changed their manager, you thought something might change. And Cambridge a year ago, after Mark Bonner left, when they brought in Neil Harris, something changed. And I wonder if that's going to inspire the board to perhaps do something similar. So, yeah, look, it's been a really poor start for Cambridge. They wanted to be a team that would finish, 15th, 16th, around that mark, and for them to be 24th, it's particularly poor. And there's no signs of it improving, certainly under the current manager. So I think you've got to put them in F. And it looks like we've just got the bottom two down here, but I imagine there might be a couple that might join them.
A couple of things on Cambridge. The board actually did release a statement saying they're going to stick with Gary Monk and he is our manager. If they were to relieve Gary Monk of his duties, that would be 4 managers gone in the space of a year. When you
Yeah.
look at it, Mark Bonner, Neil Harris, Gary Monk, the next interim manager as well. Obviously, you had Barry Corr as an assistant a couple of times as well. You got a good couple of good results in the cup against Fleetwood, being one of them as well. And the other thing as well, they've lost 5 of their 8 by a goal, the others by 2. So they're not getting battered. They're not losing 3-4s. If they came back after the international break and got a beat of 3-4-0, that's, I think, is the last line in the sand, because that is the one thing they're kind of clinging on to, I'd say. Charlton are next. Again, they are a side that are good defensively, strong defensively. They're a dull, boring watch at times as well. They play for set pieces. They're good in the individual battles. Their expected goals is one of the fewest in the division. The shots on target has got better in recent weeks, but still down there. Nathan Jones decides a side that will win 1-0, like they did away at Shrewsbury. Wigan, they beat Birmingham 1-0, beat Bolton by 2-0 as well. His style of football has to win games. They won 5 out of 10. They got 16 points. They beat Bolton and Birmingham, like we've just mentioned. They went away at Wigan and won as well. They've had some poor performances in there, don't get me wrong, but I think they'd have taken 16 points from the first 10. I think the style of football doesn't kind of blow me away thinking that they're going to carry on this. They're outplaying teams, but they've only conceded 9 goals. And yes, they went through a blip where I think they lost 3 in a row, but they bounced back from that. I'd be very interested to hear your tip, because I would probably put them in and around B.
Yeah, that was my thinking. Charlton are exactly where I thought they would be at the end of the season, give or take one place. So, look, I think that if we'd have done this again, like we said with Bolton at the last international break, you'd probably put Charlton in A because they were winning every week. But me and you, Ben, have made good points over the course of the last maybe 4 weeks that the way that they were playing was so unsustainable that they weren't going to be able to continue that. And the results since that international break have certainly shown that, defeats against Blackpool, Stevenage and Bristol Rovers have highly indicated that. So, yeah, I think Charlton, whilst not being too disappointing, haven't set the world on fire. And like you mentioned, the football's not massively great under Nathan Jones. So I think B is probably the right area in this tier list for them. Yeah, but we could be in 6 weeks doing this again, and they could have won 4 of the next 5 before the next international break. So yeah, you never know. But they've been exactly what I thought they were. So I think we have to sit them in B.
Crawley Town are an interesting one because, yes, they won their opening 2 games of the season, and since then have lost 6 out of 7. A point in there isn't great. But one thing I will say, if you said at the start of the season you didn't list where they're going to get the results from, Crawley Town would have 7 points from their first 9 and will be 4th bottom in the table. You'd go, that's a good start for Crawley. They're above where you maybe expect them to. They're playing on the spirit and they've lost the manager. If you said, 2 months ago, Scott Lindsay would have left the football club, they haven't really brought any more players in, and they are, got a couple of good results in there, you'd be putting them in probably B. However, I think that because they are in that relegation zone at this moment, they're not overachieving as it is. We're only 9 games in. I'd probably put them towards C, but with a hint of possibly even B for what we expected. Performances have been good. Their expected goals have been okay. They are still playing the way they want to and still having the dominance a league above with new players.
Yeah. Crawley should not be 21st in the league, Ben. Performances have warranted them probably being better certainly than the four teams directly above them, maybe even the five teams directly above them in the league table. And I am a big fan of what Crawley are doing. Given everything that they lost in the summer, they lost the key players. Danilo Orsi, stayed in this league and went to Burton. Liam Kelly was by far their best player in the playoff final. He's gone down a division. Scott Lindsay has subsequently joined them. I think Rob Elliott was a good appointment, like I mentioned on our League One Live on I think it was the week before he was appointed. A really good progressive manager who I think will fit the Crawley system and the Crawley style of play. I'm a real big fan of Crawley. I think the way they've taken to this league has been very admirable. They have continued to play the style of football which got them promoted last year, and that is respectable. I think they've been in games in which they've lost, which they shouldn't have lost, e.g., away at Wrexham, away at Wigan as well. If they'd have picked up them 2 points, they'd be out of the relegation zone and above Leyton Orient. So I think and I think this is one that you could very easily put in that B section. A lot of fans that aren't Crawley fans that don't perhaps take note of performances will probably say, well, why would you put Crawley in the same category as Barnsley? Well, it's all relative about expectation, isn't it? And Crawley, a lot of people thought would be dead and buried pretty much by this time where Cambridge are, and they're still in it, and their performance levels are still really high, and the underlying numbers are still very good for Crawley. So I think we're going to have to stick them in C.
I agree. I definitely agree. Exeter City are another one that have yet again started off like a house on fire. Last year, after 8, they'd won 5, drew 1, lost 2. This time, won 5, drawn 1, lost 3. After 9, the exact same after 9 last year. However, after their 8 games last year, they didn't win in 13. I think they took 3 points from that as well, and
Yeah,
they lost 7 of the next 8, only getting a 1-1 draw at home to Lincoln. So that was their only point in that 8-game run as well. So
thanks,
they
Ben.
were poor, but 10 goals scored. The reason why they're up there is defensively, conceding 6 goals. I like the defensive options you've got. I like Super Joe Whitworth in goal. I think he's excellent. He's got the most saves in the division with Christy Pym. So two sides you'd expect to probably be in the bottom 12, pushing on to that next bracket, not even trying to stay in the division, pushing on. And I genuinely believe that about those two football clubs. I'd have to go, if I'm honest with you, Jake, B, top end of B, maybe even
Oh,
pushing A.
I'm thinking Exeter deserve to go in A, Ben. Um,
Yeah, I think top end
eh,
of B to A because of the defensive efforts and what we expected. I expected Exeter about 12th, but although they're only 7th at this moment in time and they picked up 16 points over a short period, from what they were 9 months ago and how they've transitioned, you've got to look at it from that point of view over 9 games. They've got the third most points in League One in 2024, only Wickham, on
and
58 and Lincoln on 60. Yeah, you've got
sorry.
54 points in 2024.
Yeah, I am very big on putting Exeter in A because I think their start to the season has been miraculous. You look at some of the wins in there, Ben, as well. Away at Leyton Orient, really good win. They got a point away at Wigan, a really good win over Stevenage, a good win over Bolton. Yes, they've lost games against Northampton and Peterborough, and a win over Rotherham as well. So I'm really big on Exeter and the defensive options, like you say. Johnny Yafleko's come in and been fantastic. Kramer as well, who we've seen before at this level with Bristol Rovers. It really relies on what happens next for Exeter because this time a year ago, we'll learn what sort of team they are because, like you say, they completely fell off a cliff edge this time last year. If Exeter can sort of keep winning, maybe one every 3 games or something
Yeah.
like that, it will be a massive improvement. So I think based on the start and where I thought Exeter would finish, I would very much put them at the bottom end of the A category. I think they've had an outstanding start to the season.
The only one thing I want to see from Exeter now is a continued sustained bit of brilliance from them. Maybe like a Lincoln have done in previous years, where
Yeah.
they've not blown teams away for 46 games, but they've constantly found a win from somewhere that would, so you've not won in 3, but maybe dropped outside the top 10. Bang, back-to-back wins Saturday, Tuesday, keeps you up there as well. So yeah, let's go A. for the
I think that would
Grecians.
be really interesting, Ben, to see what the comments have to say. I think Exeter are a
Yeah.
club that could probably, like a couple others, but I think Exeter more than others because they're quite a small club for the
Mm.
level. So I'd be really
Well,
intrigued to see what the
when that
people.
ground gets going, it's our place to go to. You got to travel a lot of
Very,
miles. You often
very.
say that, but then obviously
Yeah,
that can easily. You always say that, but then I argue with an extra away from home, we've got to do the same traveling. So
yeah,
it's but that can also make a good team bonding and fan owned as well. I'm very interested to what you're going to say on Huddersfield Town. 5 wins, 5 draws. First 4, 4 wins, 1 defeat. The last 4, 5, 1 win, 4 defeats. Up till recently, they'd lost 6 out of 7, I believe it was, in all comps. I'll let
yeah.
you start off on Huddersfield Town. Last Sorensen went there in the summer. What have you made
He
of
did.
them so far?
Uh, Bit like the Katy Perry song "Hot and Cold," Ben, aren't they? Huddersfield. Um, Really liked what I saw out the gates. And again, we say this so many times when with teams. If we'd have done this 4 weeks ago, you'd probably put Huddersfield in the A or the B category. I think based on who they are, the money that they've spent, I think Huddersfield are not currently not achieving what they expected to. I had Huddersfield in my top two, Ben, this year. Yes, that was probably highly clouded by the signing of Lasse Sorensen, which is an outstanding one. And they've signed a lot of other good players as well. They've got some really good players in the ranks, and they've added really well. I've not quite been impressed, and even in games in which they've won, perhaps performances haven't been great. Um, so I'm thinking, and I might get a load of stick for this. I'm thinking C for Huddersfield, based on I thought they'd be right up there. And yes, they're only 1 point off the playoffs, like Barnsley and Blackpool are. But I just expected Huddersfield to be a step above
Hmm.
Barnsley and Blackpool, and it's similar to Bolton. Like the expectation is so high, and they're sort of letting themselves down a little bit. I mean, if it wasn't for that win over Barnsley, Ben, they'd be on 12 points, and that would be, you know, 19th in the league.
I will just jump in there. I'd go B personally. That defeat to Northampton was a poor one, don't get me wrong. The defeat away at Rotherham, they had 10 players on the field and went a goal up and obviously lost the game of football. But they've lost away at Reading, who have been unbelievable at this division since coming down at home. I think they've won something like 60% of the home games.
Yeah,
They've started really well. They've won 4 out of 5 this year. I think they won 14 last year at home. So, 18 out of best part of 27, 28 matches is a really good record. Lost away at Birmingham by the odd goal and was a poor performance in there against Blackpool. They were just all mashed together. It wasn't so long ago they went to Bolton and scored 4. Duff sides
yeah.
normally start slow. They brought a load of new players in. I don't think the expectation from the Huddersfield fans was to smash the league top 2. I think it was if we can squeeze into the players and have a go. I think you've been slightly harsher. I think B, and I think
I'm
that's
happy
fair.
to sit them in
Lower
B. I
B,
think lower B.
lower B.
Um,
I think C is very harsh.
yeah, well, okay, fair enough. I think we'll go B. Leighton Orient, Ben.
It's a weird one with Leighton Orient because everyone's asked me, "Are we going to be safe this year?" And I always go, "Yeah, Leighton Orient will be absolutely fine." And you watched them recently. You watched them,
Saturday.
5 days ago, and I believe in a lot of games they are playing okay. They're just missing through something through the middle. Dan Hadji is someone I really like, but isn't that focal point? They're not playing him in that focal point. I
No.
think they're missing someone like a Rule Satoru, that a regular goal scorer, a nippy forward that will press and will get in behind the back 3 or a back 4 as well. And I think that they're just missing something from last year. I don't know about you. They've not done too badly. They started poor last season, if you remember. They got the first point away at Blackpool in that 0-0 draw and kicked on from there as well. A couple of wins in there. They got better in around kind of October, about November last year, if you remember, till about February, where they were unplayable at times. I don't know about you, but I'd probably go C because they are above the line. The expectation of Leighton Orient is to stay up. 8 points isn't great. I don't think it's been a failure, though.
No. It's the same issues as last year, Ben. Leighton Orient, and I watched them in March, and I watched them on the weekend. They get into some really, really good positions, and they just don't have the killer instinct. And you've seen that in so many games. How many times have we spoken about Leighton Orient being in the games against the bigger teams? You know, we've spoken about the really tough start to the year they had. They probably could have got something out of the game against Blues. Certainly, maybe could have got something out of the Bolton game. Yeah, I think they've been unfortunate in the run that they've had, but also you sort of create your own luck, don't you, at this level? Yeah, there's been some baffling decisions from Richie Wellens, perhaps some unrest within the group and stuff like that. You know, potentially there was that time when he was linked with the Blackpool job, wasn't it? That it didn't sort of seem things were going as well as they could have done. I think you've also got to factor in the 3-0 defeat against Shrewsbury. They were woeful that day. That's when the season started, and well, they never really showed up. I like Leighton Orient. I think they play a good style of football. Look, if Michael Skabala left tomorrow, would Richie Wellens be on my list of potential appointments? Probably. I like the style of football. I like him as a head coach, but their start to the season has not quite been what I thought. I thought they'd be in that again top half of the middle the middle of the table. I'm going to agree with you. I think C is a good mark. I think Orient, it can only get better, and I think it will get better for the O's.
Things can only get better.
Well, speaking about better, here we are. We're at the best.
Do you want me to go first on Lincoln? I want to hear my thoughts, or do you want to go?
Yeah, I'm interested to see where you'd put us, because I'm set in my mind where I'm putting us. I'm keen to see if you would agree.
5 wins out of 9 from the fixtures you had. I thought Burton away on the opening day of the season with the feel-good factor. The Pat the Pirelli was there as well. I thought, it's probably as bad as a team that have just
worst
come up.
Time to play Burton, wasn't it? I thought.
Yeah, and I think that it would have been as bad as playing Stockport, Wrexham.
Oh, like what you did, Carlisle, on the first day when they got promoted.
Yeah, it was tough, and I genuinely believe if we played them 10 games later, we might have won that game. When we maybe had or maybe if we had Charlie Adam in charge, we probably could have won one of those games that could have kept us in the division. But Fleetwood are in League One. End of discussion. I think that you are conceding the odd goal that you might have not done last year at times, switching off at key moments that wasn't Lincoln last year. However, one thing I'm finding with you, you're finding goals from different sources. Every defender that's played, that started a game for you this year, has scored. You're good on your set pieces. You're good in your individual battles. You play a good style of football as well. You're investing in youth team players as well. Your goalkeeper got injured. The replacements come in and kept 2 clean sheets as well. And you won both games. So, I mean, I've been impressed with you. I think that there's still work to be done. I think that performances can get better. I think that over the long course of the season, I was worried for a goal scorer, but Bailey Cadamartri's coming in and stepped into the place. And even like McCarmer, who has scored 2 goals as late and being winners, how important was that goal last time to keep the playoff dream alive? I think that kind of kick-started you. And then Freddie Draper as well, coming on away at Cambridge, in the 5th or the 6th minute and scoring that as well, being alive. So I think it's a good start. The defeat to Barnsley, that first half, you were poor. You weren't at the level. Second half, a lot better. But you can't go 2-0 down to a decent side like Barnsley. I'd probably go A, because you're in the playoffs. You're 4th, 18, you're 2 points a game. That's 92 points across the season. That will get you, I think, in the top 2, possibly the top 3, top 4. It's a good start, and I think this says a lot about it when you've won 5, drawn 3, lost 1, and I'm being so critical on Lincoln's fine margin of conceding a goal and being a little bit poor in areas when if another team like an Exeter did that, we're putting them in the same category because we're not used to them being so good. Whereas Lincoln, because they've been so good for so long. And I was thinking before, Lincoln have been in the Football League, what now, 6 years, 7 years? I think they've had one bad season, and that was a few years ago under Appleton, where you finished like 18th, the 3rd season in League One. Bar that, you've been brilliant, a breath of fresh air to this division. Lincoln fan, house proud.
Yeah. Nappers is the house proud Lincoln fan this afternoon. I agree, Ben. I would convincingly put this in the A category. I think it's been a really good start to lose one of our opening 9. And you think about the games that we've played. We've already played Barnsley. We've already played Blackpool. We've played 2 local games against Mansfield and Peterborough. Come out with points. Wigan as well, a team I thought would be up there. Yes, we played a lot of these teams. We played Orient, we played Cambridge, and we played Burton. But you've still got to win that. And I think that under Kennedy, that was the difference between Michael Skibala and Mark Kennedy. Skibala can beat the teams we're expected to beat, whereas under Kennedy, we were only really beating the teams that we shouldn't be beating, the likes of Plymouth, the likes of Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesdays that come to mind. So, yeah, I've been really impressed with the start to the season. Scoring goals has not been an issue this year, which I thought it was going to be with the loss of Joe Taylor. Again, just really impressed we were able to keep Ethan Arahan. He's been so pivotal to the way that we play. And the biggest compliment that I can pay this squad, Ben, is that we lost 3 massive players last year: Jensen, Sorensen, and Taylor. And I don't feel like there's been a drop off whatsoever. That is a real testament to the recruitment and the work of the young players that we've got in the building. So, look, I don't want to go on about Lincoln forever as much as I absolutely love them. It's been a very good start to the season, and I think the next couple of weeks we've got Birmingham straight after the international break, followed by Crawley, Stockport, and Northampton. I think it's a nice run of fixtures that we can get points from. And if we're still where we are now at the end of October, I'm thinking we're going to stick around and finish in one of those top 6 spaces. I'm getting more confident by the week, Ben. Yeah, A for Lincoln, and I think you're going to laugh at me, Ben, because of what I've said on T-Flop.
So Lincoln in A, not quite the cathedral. If it was a cathedral, do you think it'd be A star? Do you think it's got the best cathedral in League One?
It would be an S tier, mate, on its own.
Yeah. There's no walk bigger than Lincoln Cathedral. If you've ever been, you'll know. Mansfield Town, start us off, Jakey boy. A local affair for you.
Yeah, local affair.
You lost to Lincoln, so they're in F.
Yeah, well, no. That's their only loss of the season, Ben, which I think shows you how good of a win it was for us. But Mansfield, despite all the stick that I've had off Twitter, off Stags fans, are my A star. Now, my reason for that is they have 20 points from 9 games. That is outstanding. Mansfield are a team that I thought might struggle this year with their age profile. I didn't think the recruitment was sensational. They recruited a lot of players from the division below, older players as well, already within the squad. They had players playing out of position, Jordan Bowery and Lucas Akins playing wing back. Didn't think it was sustainable. Admittedly, and this is my only caveat for Mansfield, the run that they've had, Ben, yes, they've won 5 games in a row, I think it is. They're beating teams that they should beat if they want to achieve what they want to achieve, which is mid-table. If you ask the Stags fan if they'd take mid-table, I think 100% of them would say, yes, please, and thank you every day of the week. But the ones I've been so impressed with, the draw against Stockport was a really good result. The win over Blackpool at the weekend, fantastic. Mansfield are nowhere near where I thought they were going to finish, admittedly, and that puts egg on my face. But I've been so impressed with Nigel Clough and what he's trying to do. So Mansfield, it pains me, but they are my A-star pick.
Bang on, agree with you. I think that you say they're beating teams where they should be beating them. I think that makes it even better. Going away at Northampton, going away at Crawley and winning there, beating Blackpool, who are a side that you think, well, if you want to push to the next level, beating Barnsley, the same category as well. Late draw against Burton Albion, good point against Stockport in the game. They created chances in. They've got a horrible run coming up, but 20 points you now can attack those games as well. I think on the front foot, they've been, tested defensively. Christy Pym's been an outstanding goalkeeper. I think he's one of the most underrated goalkeepers in the division. And because of his height and his physique, he's kind of branded in a different way. So I absolutely agree. Northampton Town, now a side that you expect to finish above the line. Unfortunately, this year, they are conceding goals, which isn't Northampton like. They've already conceded 28% of the goals they did last year, 17 already, 2 wins, 2 draws, 5 defeats. I'd probably go C. It hasn't been a great start, but Northampton are above the line where you'd expect them to finish at the end of the season. Maybe harsh, but I think conceding 10 in the last 3 just slightly worries me a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think you're
And
spot
without
on
strikers now as well, and Callum Morton.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with Northampton. I think any Cobblers fan would say let's stay in the division because historically that second season for them has been the issue. I think they've been relegated 2 out of the last 2 times in that second season after staying up convincingly the year before. Yeah, I've been impressed with Cobblers in some moments and really, concerned in others. But they are sort of where they thought. I think a lot of their fans would rather emulate what they did last year and potentially progress. But given the strength of the division, that is an extremely tough ask. So, yeah, I think they're in the C category. I think they pretty much epitomise everything that this category is all about. But if the season finished tomorrow, Northampton fans would feel like they've had an A season, given the fact that they're going to be in League One for a third straight year.
Peterborough, I think I'll stick with the B category there. You look at them, 4 wins, 2 draws, 4 defeats.
Intriguing.
They've never really got any rhythm going. As soon as you thought, oh, they've got a couple of wins together, is that going to reignite them? They've rebranded as a football club again this year. They've had to bring new players into the football club. Doe's come in. They obviously lost Mason Clark. They lost Ronnie Edwards. They lost Burrows. They lost Johnson Clark Harris. Big names at the football club. I always thought it'd be a season of kind of getting back to basics at Posh. They haven't been bad. They still scored 16 goals, which is Posh-like, but conceded 18. Posh-like as well. Not been good enough at home. Not been disastrous, but I think anywhere in that C category.
C, because you said B just then.
C.
C. Okay, I'm thinking C as well. The things that you'd say potentially in their favour is they've had a big squad churn and brought loads of new players in, and they're bringing through exciting youngsters. They're at the start of the cycle, Peterborough, at the moment, aren't they? And while they do have some quality players like Sapoku, they take steps forward, but then they take some big steps back. I think they got the first win at home over Bristol Rovers, great, and then they didn't win in 3 after, including 2 defeats against Birmingham, and then away at Wigan, they got absolutely bounced. So, yeah, Peterborough, I expected them to be up in the playoff picture. They're not a million miles away, but it's not quite the Peterborough of old, is it? It feels like a different side. So I think the C category is quite fair.
Can I just ask, where are you at with Reading? Because you look at them, 4 wins, 1 draw, 4 defeats, very good at home, 4 wins out of 4. 4 wins out of 5, sorry, brilliant. However, the off the field issues, the way they're still playing football to a decent standard under a good manager. Normally, that for Reading, you'd be probably putting them in and around C for that. But I'm tempted to go between A and B for the off field issues, and there's still, yes, they've got a good squad. This squad should be okay. The 11 in League One is, in my opinion, a top 8, a top 10 team. But after that, you've got young players coming in, and if one of them gets injured, you're going to be struggling. Like Savage is a great player, winger. Batchman is starting to really fare his fruits into the first team. I know he got sent off at the weekend, but where would you have Reading? Because I'm possibly in that high B category.
I'm thinking B, and
Yeah.
some people might sort of think that's a little bit strange, but I think you have to include everything that's gone off the pitch as well. Things haven't got better this week. I think Cardiff have been reportedly sniffing around after Ruben Sellers, so that if that comes off, you are potentially worried for them. But them to be sat in double figure points, been after 9 games, I think a lot of Reading fans would take. They've had the hopes up a number of times over the last 6 to 8 weeks, given rumours of takeovers going through whatever, and they've been let down every single time. And the players on the pitch have been really admirable in their performances, especially at home, in putting that behind them and getting points on the board, so that whenever a new owner comes in, they're in a decent position in the league. If an owner comes in now, Ben, they've got the January window. They're only 3 points off the playoffs, and this is Reading, who have a complete shambles of a background, staff and things upstairs. So I think it's been a good start to the season. I think Reading have been very impressive, certainly at home, and I think the B category pretty much sums them up perfectly.
Rotherham United won one of the first day and have now won back-to-back games for the first time this season. They started off slowly, beating Huddersfield, beating Cambridge, and now beating Reading. Slowly getting there. The football hasn't been great. You expected big things from Steve Evans and big things from Rotherham this year as well. Although new players, and maybe takes a while to gel, I don't think they've been absolutely disastrous in games. They've been creating chances. They haven't been scoring many goals as well. It would have to be a C for me. I thought a slow start would be, but 3 wins in 10 is nowhere near the level. I think if they could have turned two of those draws into wins. I think the Bristol Rovers one definitely. You add 2 points onto the tally, it looks differently. They could be as high as in the top 10. So that's how close it is at the moment. I'd probably go C though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there was a lot of hype around Rotherham purely because they did their business early. And I think people sort of overlooked that and decided, well, this Rotherham team, they've got a load of new players and they're going to do really well. And they've not quite gelled as Steve Evans would have wanted. They've had some good wins, especially at home. Think about that win against Huddersfield. And the recent one against Reading, I thought was a really good win as well. But performance levels have been nowhere near where I thought of Rotherham United. I always think of Rotherham United as a team in League One that are fighting to get promoted every single time I've seen them in this league, bar this season. And it's only October. I would expect them to be in the top 6 and for them to be close, but not quite as close as I thought. I think you've got to put them in C. It's not been a great return to the third tier for the Millers.
I did one of these privately last year at about the end of October, and I put Derby County in that category for the same reasons. We went on an unbelievable run after the defeat to Stevenage away at the end of
Yep.
October, where he famously said something about Paul One should leave that football club. Since then, they've been incredible, haven't they? Especially at Pride Park. Shrewsbury, one win against Leyton Orient, and they've only won, I think, 3 out of the last 21 matches. Carlisle, Port Vale, and Leyton Orient. Carlisle and Port Vale are now in League Two and got relegated last year. It's got to be failure because it's the worst start of the season. I think it says everything you need to know when these two clubs that are already in there are above them because Stephen Shrewsbury won that game. A great point away at Bolton. Absolute fair is fair. We'll credit you when you get a good result. Defensively, I've looked poor because he did 17, not look good going forward. Don't look like many options. I'll put them bottom of the league. I'm seeing that. I'm seeing they're actually worse than I thought they would be in terms of, I thought, well, they'd be a little bit better than this. I thought there'd be a bit more fight in them. It's a joint worst start in a Salop history, I believe, as well.
Yeah, woman in 10, Ben, firmly lands you in this zone here, doesn't it? Yeah, I don't know. I think the bright sparks have been Tommy O'Reilly and Leo Castledine, but they're only loan players, and there's every chance that come January, those players might well be returned to their parent clubs and sent higher into this division because they've clearly shown they can cut it at this level. And if they go and play for a really competent side, like a team potentially up here in this B category, even some here in this C category, they'd be very good League One players. I think defensively, Shrewsbury had to be better than last season. They haven't been. They don't score a lot. Therefore, when you don't score a lot, you need to be able to keep clean sheets at the other end. And this Shrewsbury team have not been able to do that whatsoever. Like you say, Ben, so many times on League One Live, Paul Hurst gets away with it because of who he is and what he's achieved previously. Yeah, I think Shrewsbury have had a really poor start to the season. And to be honest, I don't see it getting any better. The draw against Bolton, perhaps a real highlight. But apart from that, they've not got a lot to cheer about in that part of Shropshire, unfortunately.
I'm not sure what you'll think about Stevenage. I think there might be a disagreement here. I think if
Yep.
they'd have scored 3 or 4 more goals and conceded 2 or 3 more goals, you'd be having them in the category that I'm going to have them in. They've only scored 8, but only conceded 7. Lost away at Huddersfield narrowly, but I've got some good results in there as well.
Go on,
The
Ben.
Charlton at home one was really good. They switched foundations where they're really good at home now, not so great away. Whereas last year they were good away, but not good at home. I think that Steve Evans is the perfect manager to have away from home in League One and League Two because he's scrappy and can play for set pieces and win 1-0 or win 2-1. Whereas at home, it's harder to break a team down because they come and sit in like a Steve Evans bank. So I think they've changed identity. They're a much better watch now, although they're not scoring as many goals as they may like. They need big goal Reedy to come up to trees as well. I think that they've got good options in there. I think it's been a B because they've won 4. Yes, they've lost 4, but they've got a good start. 14 points from the first 10 after some difficult fixtures. Look, they overachieved last year. And then I think this year now we're judging that a little bit higher. I think they had a good start. I'd go B.
I completely agree. And it looks like
Oh
we
my
agree on
God.
everything here, Ben. Yeah, I think I've
We
been
think
so
the
impressed.
same. It's quite scary.
Yeah, I agree. I think the home wins have been sensational for Stevenage. Beating Wrexham, beating Charlton, beating Barnes at home to lose only one game at home so far this season. We won't repeat who that's to because Matt Farley tells me almost every day that they shouldn't have lost that game. and they did. But yeah, to be so strong at home, I've been impressed with some of the players that they've brought in. I think of Lewis Freestone slotted in really well, Eli King in midfield, and it really is that home form that's getting them into this B category. Because if they'd lost maybe one or two more at home, I think you'd be talking about a C. And also the defense, like I think they've got the second best defense in the league behind Wigan. Only conceded 7 goals of Stevenage, so they've continued that real strength at the back. They've just got to, like you say, got to go and get some more goals. Jamie Reid being back now should see them kick on. Dan Kemp, Tyrese Simpson's got to contribute more as well. But I
Yeah.
think for Stevenage, expectations are being hit, and I think that's only fair that they're in the B category.
I think having Matt Farley as a supporter, I think always, I don't know what it is, having him in my mind.
Farley would have them up
Oh,
here.
yeah. We want a corner, Jake. We want a corner. Come on, the boy. Honestly, right, you could listen to Matt Farley speak all day about football. Like, he spoke to Gab, didn't he? And he was so energetic after a game. Well, he's energetic anyway, but he's so energetic after the game, and you can
Yeah.
see that they're starting to become a really established club, and that's what you want to do. Look at Northampton, the difference between last year. They both came up in the same league, but Stevenage have kind of kicked on and not had that second season syndrome. And if you get through that second season, like obviously Lincoln did phenomenally, and they had their jinx in the third season where you got through. If you get through your difficult season, which you will have when you come in this division in the first 3 years, if you get through it, you're more than likely to stay. Fleetwood did it for 10 years. Shrewsbury have done it. Oxford did it as well. So, and look where they, Oxford are now. Stockport County. Now, I think we'll have different views again on this. Now, I'm going to go the same about Crawley. If I said to you in the start of August, Stockport County would have lost 1 in 9 games and would have 16 points from that run and would have only conceded 7, scored 13, you'd be like, that is an A star. That is brilliant from coming up from what you expect. A, yes, not A star, A, but you would think brilliant. Maybe you think maybe the next level because you've not been told what Mansfield might do or Wrexham who have come up as well. But I think that's a really good start. Yes, they won the first 3, and you can see they've turned poor since that. They've lost 1 in 5 since that, 1 in 6 since that, where they've drawn games. They won away at Shrewsbury, which was a good result. They played some tough games, don't get me wrong. I think A, absolute minimum, because I expected them to be okay. I thought they'd get into the top 12 comfortably. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know whether this is, again, recency bias, but 3 of their 4 wins sort of came in the first 3 games of the year, and you can say they've lost one of the last 6, but you can also say they've also won one of the last 6.
Gone 4, though. Away at Mansfield, who are a really good side.
Yeah, no, I get that, Ben, and I get
Wigan
that,
at
and the fact
home,
that
Barnsley away,
I understand
Crawley
their
away.
I get it, Ben. I completely get it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sort of torn between A and the top of B, and I understand that they're a newly promoted club, Ben. But they, like Wrexham, are a newly promoted club that have money behind them.
Yeah.
I'll stick them in A because they're a newly promoted club and they're in the top 6 as of the day of recording. But for me, if they're going to want to stay in that A category and certainly in that top 6, they're going to need to win a couple more games, I think. So I'll stick them in A, but if it was my opinion and my video, I'll have them right at the top of B. But that's me.
As of we're recording now, Wigan Athletic have just recorded another 6-0 draws while we've been recording. I think Wigan have been a side this year. Yes, they won 3 in 10, lost 3 in 10. Every positive you can label at Wigan, they're not scoring goals in 0-0 stalemates. You can't kind of open the door. They're not conceding through the door. And I said about Burton, when they start scoring, will they stop conceding? Will Wigan, if they start scoring, will they start conceding a little bit more because you're gambling a little bit more? I always say I think Wigan have been more likely to have won those games, out the 0-0 draws they've had. And if you win 2 of them, they're on 17 points, and that would take you to 5th in the division. And again, good defensively as well. What I expected, Sean Maloney, I think, has done a decent job in the last kind of 14, 15 months. I thought this was going to be a 3-year plan. I think they're a lot closer than they were last year, although They had the deductions last year. They're not playing great football. I think in an attacking sense, I've been disappointed with the style of play. I think the missing players there, but that's not on him. I think the budget didn't allow it. I think it's been a solid start. I don't think they've blown me away, although they've not been losing games. I'd probably go a solid B,
Yeah.
and I don't think anything more needs to be said about them, really.
Yeah, 6 clean sheets and 7 in all comps, but they even got a clean sheet on the road in the BSM Trophy on Tuesday
Keep
night.
more clean sheets in the Premier in, don't they?
They do, and I think in a lot of the games that they've drawn, they could argue that they could have maybe have got something from the Stevenage game, the game against Exeter. I think the point away to us was a really good point for them. Kerr and Aimson at the back just been fantastic. Carragher's young lad at right back's been really good as well. I think he's made the step into first team football really nicely. Like you say, it's just going forward, and I think players like Dale Taylor, players like Tello Asgard will get better. They've got Johnny Smith to come back into the team, who was a massive threat for them last year. Ola Kigby and Silko Thomas and Dion Rankin are very good attackers at this level. And once they start getting confidence, I can see Wigan sort of, they draw 3 in a row. I think in the next sort of, if they can get them players all firing, you're thinking of that they might win 2, draw 1. So, really impressed with Wigan defensively. I just got to unlock that attacking element, and this Wigan team could be really close. I still don't think if they did, they'd be in the playoffs. I think they'd probably be 8th, 9th, 10th in that sort of region, and that again is a really good year for Wigan Athletic.
We are definitely getting what we expected from Wigan. Wrexham now, second in the division, 18 goals scored, 8 conceded.
There we go.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, I think that what impresses me more is the style of play, that they don't have a lot of possession in games. When they have had possession recently, they've won the game and they've done it well. When they have the ball, it's not long ball at all. They get the ball, they play out from the back, they get it out into the midfielders, play forwards, run forward, get the fullbacks on the heels as well, get the ball out wide and get crosses into the box. And when you've got kind of a little man, big man up there, whether it's a Fletcher and a Jack Marriott, a Paul Mullen and a Fletcher up there as well, then that's the way Parky wants to play. He wants to play with 2 different characters up there. Yeah, I think we look at Bolton Wanderers and I think we're saying they're still the same. They don't have a different profile. I think Bolton are missing John Daddy Bodvarsson this year, and I think that's shown. I think Wrexham have a lot of different characters. And people go, yes, they've got loads of money. Yes, they've got Hollywood. They haven't really gone out this year and splashed cash. They brought in good lads, good experienced lads that know this level, that have won promotion at this level as well. Scar was being one of them as well, but also added to the likes of Elliot Lee, who has been phenomenal. I've been really impressed. I think they're one of their stars of the season has been Max Cleworth, who I really thought was good in the preseason game against Fleet. We actually scored the winner, but bar that, best player on the park at times. I definitely have to be BA. I think that they've shown a good light. Yes, they've lost to Birmingham, but other than that, they've been phenomenal. Yes, they lost to Stevenage, you're a good side. 20 points in the first 10 and just behind Birmingham by 2 points. Yes, play the game more. I like the style of play, and I think we're going to see more from this from Parky's Wrexham.
Yeah, not a lot to add really. What I like about Wrexham this year, Ben, is rather than go out and sign the players that have played 2 divisions up like they have done for the last maybe 3 years, they've signed young players that can develop with them and be sellable assets in the future. I'm talking about Ravan, the wing back, Lewis Brunt in defence as well. Players that will grow with the club and should potentially look to make the step up within the next 2 years to the Championship, because that is what Wrexham will certainly be looking to do. I've been really impressed. There are some games in which they've not played well, like the Crawley game at home, and still come away with 3 points. I'm intrigued to see how Wrexham carry on throughout the rest of the season, because obviously there's a lot of expectation. Teams will now come to them to break them down, and they don't like having a lot of the ball. So I'm sort of curious. And Gab Sutton actually spoke to this about when we were speaking about Lincoln. How a team who don't like to have the ball are going to be able to break down a team that come to the racecourse or set up against Wrexham for a point. So I'm intrigued to see how that goes, but you can't deny that they've had a stunning start to the season and completely deserve to be in that A category.
They've had lots of different challenges this year and overcome a lot. The Birmingham game may be a step too far. I think Birmingham are going to be unbelievable this year and probably lose less than 5 games. I genuinely believe that. Wycombe are a side that have scored 2+ in every game bar the Crawley game, which they were disappointed that they only won 1-0. Wycombe, where are you at? And that's the standards that they've set. And even from last year, I think they won 7 of the last 11 games last year. And you look at Matt Bloomfield, and it wasn't maybe kind of 15 months ago, 14, 15 months ago, where he first kind of came into the job, like March time, I think it was. And then, start the season quite poorly, got that result over Leyton Orient at the start of last year, then ended last year really well. I think they've been a joy to watch this year, Jake. I think that you look at Kone up front has been, a joy. He's got as many goals this season as he did in 21 games last year. Oyedimi's come back into the football club. McCleary turned 37 at the end of last season as well. Scowen, I really like. Humphreys is a welcome addition at 20 years of age. They lost Lee to a bit of an injury as well. Grimm has improved as he's gone on as well. So they've got a good team there as well. And they've got a good identity. They're scoring goals. They're 7 now unbeaten, winning 5 of which. The 2 defeats, Jake, came to Wrexham and Birmingham, and they lost 3-2 in both and could have easily got points in both. I definitely think this has got to be minimum A, and for me, I don't think there's any arguments. I think they're more disappointed about they drew the 2 games. The 2-2 was away at Blackpool, which was a good point. They beat Rotherham. They've got some good results over good sides and maybe not so good sides as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Wycombe have got to this position in the table without actually playing as well as they potentially could have done. I think there's a lot to come from Wycombe, and for them to be on 17 from 9, I think that's quite a scary prospect. I'm intrigued to see if they can continue this run of form going into towards Christmas, but the data, the outline data says that they can. They're creating chances. They're keeping the goals out at the other end as well. Scored a lot of goals, haven't they? 17 in 9. So yeah, I mean, if you look at this, this what we've created, Ben. We've essentially got the top 7 in the A Star and the A, and then pretty much the mid-table gang in B and C, and then the bottom 3 in F. Which you sort of, before this video, we sort of said, well, we don't want to do it just on league position. We want to do it on what they would expect to do, and we've ended up pretty close to what the league table is anyway. So
Yeah.
fascinating when you talk about it, isn't it?
It is, and you don't mean to do it, and I never realised until, and we can
You
only judge
don't.
off what we've seen so far. So yeah, let us know what you think down below in the comments. So that is today's ranking video. Let me know if you did enjoy it and would like to see more stuff like this as well. It's slightly longer, well, a lot longer than usual, but we like to go in depth, and this is in place of League One Live. And this is the first time you've ever seen us. Please like, please subscribe. Lots of League One content from myself, and then this man will be alongside me through a lot of it as well. Jake, any final words before we do head off?
No, thank you, mate. Really enjoyed it. Really good discussion, I thought. Let us know in the comments down below if you agree and disagree with where we've put your team. Feel free to give us as much stick as possible. That'd be nice. But yeah, thanks, Ben, for having me on. And yeah, really enjoyed it. We'll be back.
As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching Up the League One.